Hello there. It's been a while since I've posted something. Just had a lot going on and been busy. Um, I finished the book of Kings and I did the book of Galatians as well. And now I'm in Daniel and Daniel chapter 1. And it's interesting. I just kind of opened my Bible to it and it kind of takes off where I left off in Kings. So in First and Second Kings, we go through all these kings, and near the end of it, we come to a place where Judah is besieged by Nebuchadnezzar, and it's right near the end here. I end where basically Nebuchadnezzar carries off captives and carries everything off to Babylon, and it kind of ends. The book of Daniel starts like this. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And it says, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. So we see this king Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, he would have been kind of like a all-powerful dictator. He had such command and control over so many of the nations at that time. And I mean, King Nebuchadnezzar would not have been somebody you call a good man. Like his army committed so many atrocities and things. And you look at Nebuchadnezzar. He was not. He would not be described as somebody who did right in the eyes of the Lord. However, God, this is the verse that was really talking to me and stuck to me. It said, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. It makes me think, one of the thoughts that I believe the Lord put in my head is, as I was going through the kings, there'd be certain kings whom would do right in the eyes of the Lord, and then they would die a death that was like, maybe they got shot with an arrow and bled to death, or you know, like there's kings who did right in the eyes of the Lord. I distinctly remember reading, and I would think, why would the Lord punish somebody, you know, who was doing good and was righteous in his eyes? Why would he not, why would he let them die such a brutal death? And as I read this here, the thought came, and I wrote it down. The Lord's hand can be in what is going wrong in my life. The Lord's hand can be in what is going wrong in my life. I think the question, the thing that we have today in Christian circles and even in the world, we've kind of adopted the same, I would say, like a same philosophy in right and wrong. You know, basically we say a good person, you know, God should bless, but a bad person, they deserve what's coming. And I think that's kind of come into the church as well, where we can think, you know, wow, why would God allow this to happen to this person or this family? And you know, and we can ask this question, and it's not wrong to ask why. But the Lord was revealing something to me here through this story, through just this verse. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. And I think it comes all down to how we view God. If we look at our lives, we can feel like we're entitled to certain things. We have this entitlement that if I am good, God should keep me safe, or should bless me, or should, you know, if I'm his child and doing what he wants me to do, you know, shouldn't things go right? Shouldn't things work out? when somebody comes up to me or to you and says, how can God allow these bad things to happen to a good person? This is a wrong question. And just as I was doing my quiet time this morning, God was saying that is a complete wrong question. That is not what we should be asking. Because we should ask that person to define good. And when we define what good is, according to God's standard of goodness, according to His Word, we're going to quickly realize that our definition of goodness is in complete contrast of what God's definition is of goodness. And we'll quickly realize that according to God's standards, our goodness is seen as filthy rags. It says in Jeremiah, it says that the heart is deceitfully wicked. And it says the heart is incurably wicked. We are sinful to the core. And when we ask that question, how can God allow bad things to happen to good people? We are not viewing ourselves as God views us, because God views us as through His Word. It says the law in Galatians was so much about this. The law was not given as a means to perfect ourselves through it. It was given as a means to reveal our sin. And that is a huge difference. And we see here that when we look into God's perfect law, we are all essentially bad people. There's no such thing as a good person. Remember, somebody came up to Jesus and said, "Good teacher." And He said, "Why do you call me good? There's only one good." And yes, we have this perception of good and bad. But what if the question, instead of saying, why do bad things happen to good people? Why don't we rephrase the question and say, why do good things happen to extremely wicked, evil people? And so when I look at this story, the Lord gave His people, Jehoiakim, who were not following Him, over to this king, Nebuchadnezzar, who was also wicked. Who are we to judge God in what He does? If He gave us what we deserved, it would be wrath, and it would be completely just, because that's what we deserve. Our hearts are incurably wicked. There's only a miracle can change the heart that is so wicked, and that is only through Jesus Christ. And so as I was going through this, yes, it is super important to have a view of God that shows us what He thinks of us, when we view ourselves in the way that He views us. And you know, when we become His children, we don't become good. No, on the contrary, we keep sinning, right? We keep on, the flesh is something so hard to kill, to get rid of, because as long as we are in these bodies of sin, we are going to sin. So when Christ comes into us, it's not like all of a sudden all our all the evil thoughts and all the sin goes away. No, the difference is that now it is Christ living in and through us. And He will give us new thoughts and new desires and new passions. And He will live through us. But we are still just as sinful as we ever were before. The only difference is we're forgiven. And so, anyways, I just want to encourage you. I didn't get any further than that. The Lord was just showing me all kinds of things, thoughts as I read that verse, especially, and the Lord gave. And he has every right to do so. He has every right to you know, when, I mean, we don't like to see bad things happen to us, and we're following the Lord and we're saying, Lord, how could you let this happen to me? We should more say, God, why are you so gracious in allowing so much good in my life? Because I don't deserve any of it. So anyways, be blessed, and I will chat again soon. Bye.